What language level do you need as a translator? Which free cut tool to use? This and many more questions in this month's Q&A. Coming up. Hello and welcome back to the Freelanceverse. It's time for another Q&A on the channel. Very excited for this one. I know many of you were waiting for it. It's a few weeks late, but finally it's here. If you missed the last Q&A, I did it in a live stream format, and YouTube has this weird thing that they try to hide live streams for some reason because it's in a different tab on the channel. So I'm going to link it up here if you haven't seen the video afterwards of the live stream. I think I'm going to do like every second Q&A live because I really enjoyed it last time, and it adds a little another layer to it, a more interactive layer. But this time it's recorded. I have the questions here on my second screen. I'm going to show them to you and then answer them immediately. Question number 1 comes from Emiliano Rojas. Hi Adrian, I've been watching your channel for some time now, and I wanted to make a couple of questions. I wanted to find clients here on YouTube and translate their videos. Now, is there any tool to do the translation without downloading their videos? Or how could it be done now that YouTube doesn't allow the download of SRT files from the channels? Very good question. I get this question a lot because in my first videos, like the first half a year or so, I heavily promoted people subtitling my videos for a volunteer experience. But then YouTube disabled the function, so this is not possible anymore. It is, however, possible for if the creator is a bit more proactive and prepares the file for the audience. So if you send an email to freelanceverse@gmail.com, you can always reach out to this email and say you would like to subtitle my videos to gain experience. Anita will then answer your email and send you an SRT file, and you can work on it. Now, Emiliano asks if there's a tool that you don't need to download the video. You don't actually need to download the video. You can, and I would suggest to do it. It's very easy. You can just Google YouTube video to MP4 download, and then you can just copy the link into this converted, and it downloads the video for you. I think that's the easiest way, because then you actually have a video file and you can import this into your subtitling software. I recommend people to use Subtitle Edit. It's free and very user-friendly. I use it all the time. But you don't actually need the video. So if you get an SRT file, you can also import this into either into your cut tool. You can work directly in Notepad. You can import it into a subtitling software as well and play the video at the same time on YouTube, right? You don't actually need to download it. There is no function anymore in YouTube itself, so you will always need to reach out to the creator if you want to work on it, or you can transcribe it yourself, right? You can listen to what the creator is saying and transcribe or directly translate it yourself, and then send it to them and tell them, look, I translated this for you. You can use it or not. Can I use this as experience? So there is no specific tool for it, but there are definitely workarounds. Question 2 comes from New Drone. Hey Adrian, as a beginner, can I put English level B2 on my resume? And I would need at least a level C2 to get hired as a translator. Thanks in advance. Now, this is an interesting question. If you are serious about translating and you market yourself as a professional translator, all these labels of A1, A2, B2, C1, they are irrelevant, right? They are not used in the industry, because if you really pitch your services to a client, they assume that you have the necessary level of languages, right? You don't apply like you would for a non-language related position where they ask you a certain level of English and you say you have a B2. That's not really relevant, because if you offer your services in that language, it's just expected that you have the necessary level. So on a translator CV, I would never put language levels like B1, B2, C2. It gives a false impression, because if I see my translator has a B2 level, and I think to myself, well, I have a B2 level, I even have a C1, right? So that seems not good enough, right? Even though B2 as a source language can be good enough, definitely. I don't think my French is better than B2, maybe C1, but I think it's rather B2. But I would never put that on my CV, because all I need to be is confident in my ability of the source language. The label doesn't really matter as long as your content, as long as your output is good, right? So I would not put the level on there. In terms, you ask if you need at least a C2 level to get hired as a translator. Again, not to get hired, you don't need that, but for you to feel confident enough in your language, your target always needs to be on a native C2 level. Only offer translations into a language if you're confident enough, if you can say, I am a native in this language, or I'm near native. I can make the distinctions between nuances, between different registers. I will never offer translations into English myself. So for example, this can give you kind of a, because you know my level of English through my videos, right? It's conversational, it's good, but it's not perfect by any means. And I'm using a very limited vocabulary. Of my active vocabulary is maybe, 2,000-3,000 words, but if you actively translate, you need a much larger vocabulary than that. Hope that answers your question. A long answer to a short question, but it's not always so easy to answer, of course. Number 3, rather long one, from Root41. Hi Adrian, I'm an interpreter that translates simultaneously in several languages in addition to my 2 native languages, English and Spanish. Wow. And while I'm at a good point professionally in the field of interpreting, I would like to begin working with written translation work as well. Do you feel like the 2 skills translate over? No pun intended. And what are the aspects of translating that you would recommend focusing on that interpreting doesn't prepare me for to get up to speed? First of all, amazing, 2 native languages and other working languages. And you're doing well in interpreting, so that's amazing. I'm surprised that you now want to get into written translation, actually. Oftentimes it's the opposite, right? People start out written and then go into interpreting, or do both at the same time. So I'm excited to see that you want to also do that. Maybe it's because in interpreting often you have downtimes, right? Sometimes you're booked very much and then there is no event coming, so you're kind of in between jobs, and that's when your written translation work can fill the gaps. That's a very good strategy, I would say. The skills definitely translate, as you say, no pun intended. Years ago, I made a video about comparing the different skill sets. You should click here to watch it. It's very interesting for you, I think. I'm not going to go into all the details in this video because it does fill an entire video. In short, I can say that interpreting, as you know, is much more stressful, much more high pressure output, but in a way less precise, right? You can and you're even obliged, or like you have to cut out certain things in a text to make it more concise, to just take the gist and transfer that. Whereas in translation, you have much more time, so you need to do more research, you need to be more precise and exactly think of the transferring not only the meaning but the exact sentence, right? And that's the main difference. So in terms of skills to focus on, I would say your written language. Probably you're not doing that much writing in interpreting, right? So focus on your writing skills in your target language, and also focus on research skills, because that comes in very handy. You become much more productive, much quicker when you know where to look for things. I have entire bookmark folders. Like I had to structure my bookmarks into folders because I had too many. So now I have bookmarks with folders with different topics, dictionaries, where to look things up. Whenever you look something up that's interesting, you should save it, because you will probably not find it again, right? Once I had to translate something that was very specific to bridges, so I had to look up the different terminology for, like, you know, what is this arch called in a bridge? What is this railing called? So I found this amazing bridge dictionary, and I would never find that again because I was so deep in the Google search. I was far beyond Google at that point. So I'm happy that I saved it, and whenever I have to look up something about bridges again, I know where to go. So these skills definitely I would focus on, and if you want to know more, check out the video. Question number 4 from Endless. Nice name. I have a question. What do they mean by proofreading in translation? They will send me the text in their language or the language that they want to be translated. Can you explain? Now you're asking what proofreading is. I'm not sure about the other question if I completely understand, so I'm just going to explain what it means, proofreading. In simple terms, proofreading means you are correcting someone else's translation. Now, this doesn't necessarily need to be a translation. It can also mean that you're correcting someone else's text that was written in your native language already. That is usually referred to as editing, but editing and proofreading, even the revision, I made a video about that as well, you can click here. They are often used as, how do you say that? As synonyms. If someone sends you a proofreading, what I would expect they send you is either a text translated by a professional translator. For example, in my case, I would get the English source text and the German target text, and I would check the translation that they made. So this is a bilingual proofreading. You're actually proofreading the German with regards to the English source, right? So you're comparing the two. Or they send you just a German text and you do a monolingual proofreading. So you're simply reading without any source text, you're simply reading the text and you're correcting it. Now, proofreading technically means just spelling and grammar mistakes, whereas editing is a more holistic approach. So you're also looking at stylistic changes, you're maybe restructuring the paragraphs, etc. So definitely make sure your client knows exactly what they want when they ask for proofreading, because it's not always clear. So I'm always asking back with new clients, what exactly do you mean? Do you just want me to correct spelling, grammar, all these basic language things, or do you want me to look at the text holistically? All right, we have two more. Football Burek, nice name. I want to check out your channel now. Wait guys, I have a question. So when I apply for an agency, I already need to be registered as a freelancer. Can you elaborate more on that, or people in the comments? Thank you. Definitely, yes, Burek. So if you're applying to a translation agency, they expect you to be registered as a freelancer, because you have to pay taxes in your country and they are only allowed to work with registered freelancers. So they also need to justify that to their tax authorities, right? So definitely don't lie to people. Usually companies would require you to send them their tax ID, for example, or when you sign an NDA, you would also write your official business name and your tax ID in there. So definitely when you reach out to serious agencies, you need to be registered. I'm saying serious because there are many agencies out there that will not ask you for any proof. I'm not saying don't do it. I mean, fine, if you want to get started without registering, because in the beginning you don't want to pay taxes, I'm not saying do it, but feel free to do whatever you want, right? Of course, everyone needs to start somewhere, but when you're starting to make regular money, make sure to register officially and do everything by the books, because it's gonna hunt you down later on if you don't do that from the start, I can guarantee you. And with serious agencies and big agencies that do everything by the books, you will always have to provide your tax ID. So this comment is actually from a video. This is not from a Q&A. This is from a video that I made with Lucas from Supertext, an agency in Switzerland that I work with. And these guys will always ask you for a proof of registration. Otherwise, you will not be able to work with them. So that's it. And the last question for today from Etherealix. Is there any free cut that's too expensive till I can't afford it? Absolutely get it. No worries. This is about, in the last video I talked about which CAT tools I would recommend. MemoQ and Trados are the two main ones that I work with, but they are expensive, that is true. So if you want to work with free ones, I would suggest you work with server-based ones, SmartLink, SmartCat, WordFast, I think as well. There is Phrase that was MemSource in the past. These are all server-based and I think they're all free. So check them all out. MateCat is also there, Omega, something. I haven't worked with these specifically. I work with SmartCat, but only with certain clients. SmartCat I really like because I mentioned that before. There is also a marketplace on there where you can find jobs, and it is completely free to use, at least the basic version. And you can also buy a paid version. So I would go with, try out some open source CAT tools. I'm sure there is a list. I'm going to check to find an open source CAT tool list and put it down below so you can actually go through the ones that you like. So in the beginning, you don't need to buy one. It's possible that some clients in the future will require you to work with the big 3-4 CAT tools. So you will be forced to buy it in a way if you want to work with them. For me, it's definitely worth the investment because I work with them every day. It's my main business tool, my main working tool. But I understand that in the beginning you don't want to invest in that. When I started, I worked with a university license that I still had. Maybe that can help you, or otherwise you can check on Proofst.com. There are always group buy options where many people buy it together, and then you can get it at a substantial discount. There you go. These are all the questions from the June Q&A. If you have questions for the next Q&A that will be after the summer break, probably in August, make sure to ask them down below. I will answer them already in the comments and then use them in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe to the Freelanceverse and like the video. And I see you next Monday with the next one. Bye bye.